All right, we're in Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5. And we've been discussing, at least last Sunday, verses 1 and 2, what we've been looking at. Because Paul begins this chapter with that word, therefore. And as always, I've asked this question many times, that conjunction, what's your function? What is its function? What does therefore mean when it's used in a sentence?
You got to take into account all that's been said before.
Yeah, so you got to take into account to everything of what's been said before. Now, chapters 1 through 3 of Ephesians kind of discussed a lot of the doctrinal teachings in regards to the one body of Jesus Christ. And beginning at chapter 4, verse 1, he kind of transitions into, okay, now, so what? He's answering the question, so what? So what and so how? What does that mean for us? How can I apply it and put it to practice in my life each and every day? And then so, since chapter 4, verse 1, he has been discussing a lot of application and practical ways on how we can put this to practice to help us to become united, and help us become a new person in Christ Jesus, and to help maintain the unity of the Spirit. And so, he has already been discussing on the things that we need to put off. Because concerning our old way of life, we practiced one certain lifestyle. And it was a lifestyle that was ungodly, a lifestyle that was in darkness, a lifestyle that has caused our minds to become callous to the truth. But then, in Christ Jesus, we are to put away that stuff. And we are to put on the new man. What does that new man look like? Well, he's going to talk more qualities about what this new person in Christ Jesus looks like. But it's interesting when you look at the very end of chapter 4, verse 31 and 32. Can I get somebody to read that? Read chapter 4, verse 31 and 32.
Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind to one another, tender-hearted, giving one another, even as God for Christ's sake forgiveth you.
All right, now in verse 31, if we allow those qualities mentioned right there, all the bitterness, the malice, and everything, if we allow those qualities to, I would say, control our life or to rule our life, then what does that say about verse 32? Are we going to be kind? No. Are we going to be tender-hearted? No. Are we going to be forgiving one another?
You're going to be none of that.
No, you're going to be none of it. Plain and simple, you're going to be none of it. And then so in verse 1 of chapter 5, he tells us to be what of Christ?
Imitators.
Imitators of Christ. And again, what does that word imitate mean?
Mimic.
Followers. Okay, so an imitator is a follower.
Mimic.
To mimic and to be like. Exactly. That's actually where we get our English word for mimic. And a mimic is one who reduplicates, is one who is like a model. You take that model or that blueprint and you become like it. And who is our model? Who's our blueprint? Christ is. Christ is our model. Christ is our blueprint. And he says what? Imitators of God as beloved children. Be imitators, mimic Christ. And when you connect that back to verse 32 of chapter 4, what did Christ do? What's the very end of verse 32 say of chapter 4? He forgave us. He forgave us. Mimic Christ. Mimic him. Mimic his qualities. Mimic who he is. Reduplicate Christ. We are to be the mirror of Jesus Christ. When one another sees us, and not just one another, but even those outside see us, they should look at the church, and the church should be a mirror that reflects Jesus Christ. Because I tell you what, if somebody walks in here and they see us, we're claiming to be followers of Jesus, we're claiming to be imitators, but if they don't see it in our words and behavior, are they going to want to be part of it? No, plain and simple. Absolutely not. And so he says, as beloved children, be imitators of God. And that is the basis for our activity. Without forgiveness, we could never become a part of God's spiritual family. Yet he loved us and forgave us, and he expects us to do no less for others, especially others being one another. Those who are in the body, those who are in the church, those who are in Christ. Paul told the Corinthians, be imitators of me as I am of Christ. 1 Corinthians 11, verse 1. He also told the Thessalonians, for you yourselves know how you ought to imitate us. That's 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 6 and 7. And then it has those of us who mimic Christ, verse 2, we are to what? What does verse 2 of chapter 5 say? Walk in love. Walk in love as, there's that word again, as who loved us? As Christ loved us. So forgive as Christ forgave. Love as Christ loved us. He is our model to follow. And again, when Paul says walk in love, how is he using that word walk? What does that word walk mean? How do the writers often use it? Live. It's a way of life. The lifestyle that you are walking. What kind of lifestyle is it? Is it one that is filled with love? Or is it what? It should be. Yes. And so this is really, when you look at the overall context, it fits together like a puzzle piece. When you go back to chapter 4, beginning at verse 17 all the way to 32, Paul gives really two different lifestyles that you can walk. The lifestyle of darkness, walking in darkness, this is what it looks like. Bitterness, wrath, malice, hate, unforgiveness, of an unforgiving heart, bitterness, resentment, the list can go on. Or you can walk in love. And Paul is going to elaborate here in just a few minutes what love looks like specifically. But walk in love. Our lifestyle, our conduct, and our daily demeanor ought to be one that is filled with love. And again, what kind of love are we talking about here? Agape. Say it louder, sister. Agape. Yes, agape love. It is that self-sacrificial type of love where we put the other person's needs or interests above our own. And he says, what model are we to follow? What model are we to mimic of that love? Who? Christ, just as Christ loved us. This is Paul's way of appealing to the Christian to model the love seen in the sacrificial acts of Jesus. Now, as we look at question number 2 on the handout sheet, you still have it with you. Question 2 is, how has Christ loved us selflessly and sacrificially? That's the first thing that should come to mind, is that he gave his own life for us. What does that mean to you? How much does it mean to you? These are questions that you don't have to answer out loud. These are self-reflecting questions, I like to call it. But what does that mean to you? And how much does it mean to you? If he's willing to sacrifice everything, being his whole life, how much are you going to be willing to sacrifice?
You also have to look how much did Christ affect your life.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the level of how much you would be grateful to him for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I know there's a lot of people doesn't let Christ affect their life.
Mm. When we notice and appreciate how much Christ loved us, then that love will affect our life. At least it should affect our life. And Pete makes a great point, because that is really the goal I'm trying to get by asking those questions. What does it mean to you, and how much does it mean to you? Does it mean enough for his love and his life that he laid down for you to affect your life in everything that you do? Affect your life in every area, at home, at work, at school, wherever. How much are we going to be willing to sacrifice in order to allow him to rule and to reign our life? What are some things, let's make it specific and concrete, relevant and practical. What are some things that we know that we need to sacrifice? Things that we know that could get in the way of our walking with him. People that we associate with. Absolutely. What can those people do?
Lead you astray.
Lead you astray. They can lead you astray in what ways might they lead you astray?
Spiritually.
Spiritually, first and foremost.
It can be any. Physically.
Yeah. I mean, some can lead you astray, like through false teaching.
You may mimic them if you stay around them enough, you start acting like they are.
Yes.
You're only as good as the company you keep.
Yes, that's right. And I think that's the principle that Paul brings out in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. Do not be deceived. Bad companionship corrupts good morals. And that principle has always remained permanent. I mean, that principle has been around since time even began, since sin entered the world. You hang around with bad people, guess what? You'll become bad yourself.
And it could even be just guilt by association.
Guilt by association. Now let's get an example of that. How might a person, or how might we, let's put ourselves in the equation or in the scenario, how might we end up becoming guilty of association?
If you're in a place with them, and it's really not a place you should be.
Mm-hmm.
People perceive you as being like that.
Yeah. I think also like a good example for this would be like, even if you were clueless in the matter, and this has happened, is that you may have a friend that asks you to, hey, can you just give me a ride to the convenience store real quick? And, take me back home. All right. And you say, yeah, sure. You give him a ride, and then next thing you know, he comes running out, huffing and puffing, has a mask on his face, carrying bags of money, and then he jumps right into the car and he tells you to get out of it. You had no clue. You had no clue. He lied to you. He didn't told you what his intentions were or what his plans were. But guess what? You get caught, what's going to happen to you? You're going to go to jail too. Even if you actually were innocent and trying to do a kind act for a friend. But guess what? According to the law, you're guilty by what? Association. Yes. Guilty by association. David.
I read in the paper about a man that he took these friends of his in, and he didn't really know that they'd been away for a while, it said, and he took them in, and they were wanted now. Well, the police found out they were there at his place. They came in, they got him, and they took him too, because they got him for aiding and abetting felons.
Mm.
And he spent time in for quite a while until they finally got those other guys to confess that he didn't know anything about it.
Mm.
So that cleared his name.
Yeah.
But he had to go through all that process of getting clear that he didn't know. And I hope he's telling the truth about it all. But the guys finally told him that he didn't know. They just committed this armed robbery.
Yeah.
I think it was in Arkansas where it all took place, if I remember right.
Wow. Yeah.
You don't have to always know, but if it's just guilt by association,
Mm-hmm.
you can be innocent and still be in trouble.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And the thing is, I think you bring another good point, is how difficult it will be to kind of get your name cleared. The fact of the matter is that I believe Solomon says it twice in Proverbs and in Ecclesiastes. He says, a good name is better than fine riches. Good name's better than fine oil. Because those ointments and those riches, oh yeah, I mean, they can be depleted and they could actually be regained. But when it comes to a good name, yeah, when your name is harmed, your reputation is harmed, then it stays with you most of your life.
I
In
think
some cases, you can't regain it back. Riches, you can. Money, you can. Possessions, you can. But not a good name in some cases.
I think about that time when you're in high school athletics. If one person gets in trouble, we all get in trouble.
Oh, man, that's right.
And we all got to run laps.
Yeah, that's right. And there's examples of that. They call that communal punishment or congregational punishment, however you want to refer to it as. It's actually a military strategy, a military punishment. And we see that with Achan. I mean, guess what happened in Joshua? You know, when Achan had stolen some of the spoils, you know, he hid it for himself. Only he and his family knew about it. But what happened when Joshua led the people to Ai?
They lost.
They lost. And Ai only had a population of 600 to 800 people. And Israelites had thousands. And they lost against a small, puny little town. And God told them why. And we kind of think there and we scratch our heads like, well, why didn't God just inform them about it to begin with? Well, he could have, but Joshua chose not to go to God. Instead, he listened to his generals and said, okay, all right, let's go to Ai. Now, if he would have stopped and if Joshua would have first went to God, God would have informed him about it. But Joshua didn't. And so the whole people suffered punishment from one man's act. One man's sinful act. But anyways, getting back to our discussion about mimicking and imitating, we are to imitate and mimic Christ. And yes, there are ways in which that we can understand how Christ loved us. He loved us selflessly. He loved us sacrificially. And so getting back to discussing some ways on how we can understand what Christ how much Christ loved us is the first and foremost is that he laid down his life for us. He laid down his life for us. What are other ways how Christ showed his love to us? I mean, think about his life during in the gospel accounts. What are some things he did?
His miracles.
He healed the sick.
Went to the lowly.
Went to the lowly. What'd you say, Braden?
Oh, it's just that his miracles.
His miracles in connection to feeding people or healing them. I mean, Paul even tells us in Romans chapter 8. I mean, he says, if God was willing to give his greatest gift, which is Jesus, his son, then what makes us think that God's not going to give us the little gifts or the lesser gifts? Things that we need, such as food. I mean, do we need money? We want money, yeah. But do we need it to buy food? Yeah. Do we need it to support our families? Yes, absolutely. But sometimes we live our lives as if, God's not going to provide us those things.
He gives us forgiveness.
He gives us
Forgiveness
forgiveness.
of my sins. That's
Absolutely.
the best thing that. What if we didn't have that?
Mm-hmm.
And
I-
then we'd be
Absolutely. I
slaughtered.
think that would help us to appreciate his love for us and have an effect in our life. Braden?
I was going to say we'd still be slaughtering animals if we didn't have that.
So we slaughtered animals, but here's the thing though, we're not Jews. So
Well, we still would
we
be
do
Jews.
without hope.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I think one of the things you have to think about is that Jesus, all things were created for him and by him. He had all authority. Yet he was willing to, he lived in a spiritual form.
Yep.
Before his existence. He was the Word of God that created this earth. But he was willing to take upon the fleshly body that we live in, to become one of us.
Yes.
And go through the punishment and suffering for us. And he became our friend and our brother.
Mm.
And really, shared in equality with us because of the flesh that he took upon, and became one of us. And he didn't have to do that.
No, he didn't.
He was the creator.
Mm-hmm.
He was the ruler. He was the one that controls the wind, earth,
That's
the
right.
sky, and everything, and all the animals and all of that. Yet he became one.
That's right. Reminds me also, I believe you quoted Hebrews chapter 2 there. Also reminds me of Philippians chapter 2. I mean, he did not consider his godhood a thing to be grasped. I mean, in other words, he didn't hold on to it. He didn't grab and hold on to it for dear life. But he willingly let it go. What are we holding on to?
You know, you look at, we become bosses, we become kings, we become, materialistically strong.
Mm-hmm.
We want to hold on to that.
That's
don't we?
right. Yes.
We don't want to give that up to Christ.
No, we don't.
Hold on to
Mm-hmm.
it. We want to hold on to our holidays and our jobs and our days off and all these things we want to hold on to.
That's right. Yeah. We don't want to give it up. That's right. And I mean, what is it gonna take for us to let go of that? I think it's what Paul's talking about here in Ephesians 5, verse 2.
In order for me to be like Christ, I have to be willing to do that for each and every one of y'all. That's
Yes.
what I have to do. That's what the Lord did. That's the imitation.
That's right. Exactly. And I think it's love. Love just as Christ loved us. When we understand the love of Christ, what he did for us, and allow it to affect our life, then yes, we're going to be willingly letting go of that stuff that we're holding on to. And allowing Christ to rule our life, and then also imitating and mimic him in the lives of one another. Putting their needs, their interests above our own. I think we answered question 2 pretty well. But when we're willing to give ourselves to others, even to the point of being selfless and sacrificial, it is then we are truly walking in love and imitating, mimicking the example of Christ. Now in verses 3 through 7, he who is acting in love is going to walk in a way that is worthy of one wearing the name of Christ. Now the sins that Paul is about to list here are perfect illustrations. Again, this is verses 3 through 7. They're perfect illustrations of the counter opposite of the selfless attitude of Christ. These sins belong to the self-centered, self-loving individual, not to the one who loves either Christ or others. So Paul begins by discussing 3 sins that are the center of man's desire. And all of these sins, he commands, should not be named among you, he says. When Christians are being discussed and Christian behavior analyzed, no one should ever be able to say, yes, but I know a Christian who is immoral. We should never be able to say that. Why? Because Paul says it should not even be named among you. As Paul will note later, we are trying to please God, not ourselves. Verse 10 of Ephesians 5. We are to be holy and the blameless bride of Christ. Verse 27. And so can I get somebody to read verses 3 through 7 of Ephesians 5?
But among you there must not be even a hint of sexual immorality, or any kind of impurity, or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which they're all out of place, but rather thanksgiving. For of this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such as a man is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of such thing God's wrath comes on those who are disobedient. Therefore, do not be partners with them.
Thank you. All right, so let's consider these three that Paul lists. And that brings us to our third question, is what are the three sins listed in verse 3, just in verse 3, that are the center of man's desire?
Fornication,
Fornication,
uncleanness,
uncleanness,
and covetousness.
and covetousness. All right, does anybody have different words in the version that you're reading from?
impurity or greed.
Immorality, impurity, or greed? Anything else? Anything? Okay. All right. Now, again, if you were paying attention, I already gave you the answer to the second part of the question. What does Paul mean when he says that these things should not even be named among you?
No, we're not supposed to even have those things in our life.
You should not have those things in our life. What? You shouldn't be doing any of those. What else?
Shouldn't even entertain the thoughts of these.
You should not even entertain the thoughts of these.
Read the book of Corinthians, the first chapter, and you'll see all the things, and we'll discuss some of them tonight in our devotions, but there's a lot of stuff there that was named among them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Bad reputation.
Yes.
And when Paul mentions these types of sins in these letters and things, that's what those people at that particular congregation were struggling with at the time.
Yes. And Paul wants them to get to a point in their walk with Christ that it should not even be named among you. I mean, you shouldn't be able to say, well, I know a Christian who does. Paul says, no, you shouldn't even be naming any of that among you. It shouldn't be like that. Also, I mean, it shouldn't be named among you even when it comes to outsiders.
It's gossip.
Yep, that is gossip. Yep, it's gossip. And so Paul says that these are to be put away completely. And so let's look at specifically these three right here because they're very interesting terms. So the first one would be sexual morality or fornication or impurity, depending on the version that you're reading from. And so this word, fornication or sexual morality, is a Greek term that is known as an umbrella term. An umbrella. What does an umbrella do?
It covers you, but
It covers you, basically. All right, and so that is what it's like with this term right here. It's an umbrella term that makes up any and every unlawful sexual intercourse, prostitution, adultery, fornication, incest, bestiality, homosexuality, lesbianism, and the list goes on. It makes up any and every unlawful sexual intercourse. So Roman society, when you put yourself in their sandals, what was Roman society like?
pretty much all the things you just listed.
Just about everything that was listed. What'd you say, Sister Linda?
I said it's a free society.
A free society. Yes. It was basically a free society. I mean, they did in fact have certain governmental laws, but when it came to moral laws, no.
Well, it's just
they didn't have any moral laws.
just like America today.
Just like America today, but I will also be saying that and admit that it's not as bad as the Roman society, though. I mean, they didn't have any moral law whatsoever. I mean, you're able to perform any and every, all kinds of unlawful, disgusting sexual desires and fantasies that you ever had, and you wouldn't get in trouble for it. At least you wouldn't get immediate punishment or trouble at all. But those living at that age were quite familiar with the debased lifestyle. And then he says the second word is uncleanness or impurity. Now, again, we have another umbrella term. This word captures any and every immoral activity that a person habitually lusts after without acting upon it. So you may be one that's not interacting physically with these unlawful sexual desires, but Paul says that you can't even think or entertain the thought of it at all. So in other words, even if a person does not engage in it, there's still plenty of nudity and impure activities. For example, in Roman society, prostitutes either wore very little or nothing at all in public places. And the historian Josephus recorded that at the Colosseums, not just the Colosseums where gladiators fought, but he said at a Colosseum. So they had multiple Colosseums where they would either perform their games or chariot races or even the gladiatorial games. But he says at any Colosseum, you would find people in the stands engaging in sexual intercourses while others would watch. That's how disgusting it was. And our society may not have reached that extreme, but it is certainly accessible in other ways. There's some people who don't like to engage in it, but they sure enjoy watching it. And that's unclean, Paul says. You shouldn't even be entertaining the idea or the thought of it at all.
Even laughing about it and talking to everybody about it and making a big deal out of something that they know is going on. They may not be in it, but they know about it. And so instead of trying to try to prevent it, they just think it's real funny and
Yeah.
go along with it.
Exactly. I mean, they laugh about it. They're entertained by it. And Paul says that's just as wrong. Just as wrong. And I mean, you think about it in our society, you know, we go and see movies that are rated R. And David and I, we've had these conversations, you know, plenty of times in our office before. And when that first cuss word was entered into the movie theater with Gone by the Wind, I mean, I heard it blew up. I mean, people were shocked by it. But now we've become so what? Desensitized by it. And I remember watching the old shows where the husband and the wife, they sat in, you know, different beds. And until that one family show where it showed, I can't remember the name of it, you might remember, but where it showed actually the husband and the wife sitting in the same bed, and that blew up. I mean, people were shocked by it. I can't remember the name of that show. You should know. You tell me all about the Andy Griffith shows
I
and.
know the Lucy show, the Dick Van Dyke show, like.
Was it Dick Van Dyke?
No, they were separate.
No, they're separate. Was it I Love Lucy?
No, they didn't, they had separate
They had
beds.
separate beds. Oh, what show was it?
Well, I can
Was it
remember.
House on the Prairie?
I can remember one
They
Dick,
slept in twin beds.
one Dick Van Dyke show where it had.
Okay, it might have been the I Love Lucy. I got to go back and I got to do my research.
I don't
It's not
think so.
Lucy.
I don't think,
Okay.
There was one Dick Van Dyke show where it was the office workers, they were at this camp place. And the ladies were gonna stay in one room and the men were gonna stay in the other room, but yet some people were playing a prank on them that this place they were staying in was haunted.
Yeah.
And so they got scared, they all got in the bed together. But they never went to sleep or did anything.
They hid in the bed together.
Yeah, they hid in bed together.
Okay.
They were all afraid.
was it my three sons?
That was the Ghost of Chance, I think was the name of that show. But,
Yeah.
Was it my three sons, my three sons? Is that the one that had the mom and dad?
I can't remember, but
Might have been
anyways,
the.
I know that somebody can at least, you know, in between worship or in between Bible class and worship now in a few minutes, you can probably pull out your phone and look it up real quick. I'm sure AI can probably be able, or ChatGPT can tell you right off the top of its head. Yep.
Probably the Brady Bunch or something.
Maybe in the Brady Bunch. Can't quite. But anyways, I mean, we've become so desensitized though. So desensitized that, I mean, we've just now, I mean, our conscience has been seared by it. I mean, we're not bothered by it.
Well,
And
You look at all those sitcoms nowadays, and it's all just sexual humor.
it is.
You know. And
It is. All sexual humor, I mean, so much nudity and everything. I mean, the point is that it's accessible. And we might not be interacting with those things physically, but Paul says that even entertaining the idea, the thought of it is unclean and impure.
I remember
It's just
going
as
to.
wrong.
Even if you're not watching something, a movie or whatever, if you're in there and a commercial comes on, they're just as bad.
Yeah.
Really.
right.
I remember going to Blockbuster, and renting the movie, and you look at the back of it, and it have all the stuff that was in it, like
Yes.
foul language, nudity,
Yes.
whatever. And
Yes, it'll tell you everything that was on it before you even rented it. But Romans chapter 1, verse 32, I'll end it with this, and then we'll come back next Sunday. He says, though they know God's decree that those who practice such things deserve to die. But not only those who do them, but even those who give approval to those who practice them. So again, we may not be doing those things ourselves, but Paul says it's just as wrong if we're entertaining the thoughts of the idea as well. If there's not anything else, then we will, again, come back next Sunday, and we will finish verse 3, and we'll continue on from there. Thank you, everybody, for your participation.
Did you know